Welcome back to the Perfect Lap Podcast. I'm Mark Jager. This is Mark Kilgore. He goes by Kilgore. I go by Jager. And today we're here with John Hunter from the SCCA Time Trials. He's the Time Trials manager. And we're going to talk about SCCA Time Trials Nationals. All right, John, give us an idea of what you've been up to lately.
Oh, it's been a busy month or so. I had the good fortune of going and doing the Hoosier, the Track Attack Pro press release. Got to experience that tire a little bit. We can talk about that in a second. And then I was just at the SCCA Runoffs National Championship for the club racing side of things. But I was working a camera versus working for the SCCA in that situation.
That's always interesting.
No, it's rad. It's awesome. It's I won't call it a hobby job because the guy pays me the money for doing that job would consider, oh, well, it's a hobby. I'm not going to have to pay you, right? So
Yeah.
it's all a side gig, so to speak. But
were you working the same camera the whole weekend?
Yeah, I was turn one at the event, which was really awesome. I've really only worked camera for anything racing wise a handful of times. I'd say between 5 or 8 times, and I've only worked the turn one camera twice. Usually it's the bigger camera. Usually it's one of the more important shots, obviously, because you get the start and you have the first turn, and then all the action happens in the first turn typically. So when I saw that was turn one, I was pretty excited about that. That was really cool. So yeah, we're turn one. Did all 3 days of the event.
And so that was Road America for the SCCA runoffs, right? I don't know if we said that, yeah, but that's the club racing runoffs at Road America.
Yep, it was Road America this year. It moves around a little bit. So long straights into the first turn. Lots of things going on. Caught a few incidents, but I'll say the cool thing about this year is there's some really, really good racing. It was, if you haven't tuned in, they have all the races on YouTube. You can actually check in on each day. They have the days listed, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then you can find the races within the days. There were some really good battles this year. Some really, really fun, entertaining races to catch. So you can find that on YouTube. SCCA.
Yeah. The battles are what everyone wants to see. Everyone wants to see people go at it wheel to wheel, have a good time. Not quite what we're here about. We're here, talking about time attack. But
Right.
It's still really awesome to see, really, really awesome to catch. And definitely get online, get on YouTube, and check out those SCCA club racing runoffs that they have there. Great racing. Again, I've watched it. It's awesome.
Right. And then
give us a little bit more insight into that Hoosier launch event. We did have a podcast that we just released. So, we want to just a taste.
Don't make me too jealous. I mean, being a BMW guy here, racing an M4, right? Like, oh man, it hurt my heart. But tell me about it. I'm interested to hear your perspective.
I should just not say anything now. No, it was super cool. It's actually my first time ever doing a press release or a product launch like this. Hayward Wagner was actually the one who was supposed to go, my boss, and he couldn't make it. And it was at Thermal here on the West Coast, and I live up in Seattle area. And so he was like, well, hey, John's a driver. John runs a time trials program. So this time attack tire would make sense for him to go check out. And plus he lives on the West Coast. So let's send him down. And it was, like I said, it was at Thermal. We stayed at La Quinta Resort, not the hotel. I learned they are distinctly
fancy.
Different. La Quinta Resort is like, I don't know how many acres it is, but there's like 41 or 42 pools. Like both Jabay and I were like, what is even going on with this? And then, we were at Thermal. We did it. They did the release using the BMW Performance School that's there, and got to drive M3s, M4s, M2s, and the Piece de la Resistance, the GT4.
So cool. Was so freaking cool.
I did not want to get out of that car. Adam and I both lost our minds about one simple fact. So that car gets raced, in series that you change drivers typically. And obviously you want to keep you want to keep weight in the same spot in a race car. And so the seat doesn't move, but the pedal box does. And
that's
so
awesome.
you get in the car and there's a little T handle you grab on your left-hand side and you pull it towards you and the pedal box will come to you and you can move it back and forth and set it exactly where you want the pedals. And it's just, it was one of those things where like, I want one of these. Can I have one of these now? And the race car had air conditioning. I mean, come on. How do you beat that? Because the windows are up. The windows don't come down. They're Lexan. They're built in. Like there's actually magnets to hold the upper edge of the door against the body because the wind would, the door is carbon fiber. It's flexible enough. But that's no, cool. So it was, we got to, there was 5 pods that we did. And you worked around and my group with like Rob Dahm and Adam Jabay and,
it's okay.
Anyways, doesn't matter, everybody. But
one of the guys from
there's a lot of YouTube people there.
Yes, he was there. But I was trying to remember who was in the other group. But anyways, we started on the 1.8 mile in the M3s, I believe. Just doing a lead follow. Our instructor had a good time. He realized that we could drive, so he let us push a little harder, and that led into driving the GT4. So we stepped right into driving the GT4s. Nice. And that was all in the Hoosier tire. We weren't doing any comparison there. And that was, it was very, very awesome to experience that. So you got to get the feel of the tire a little bit in that situation. And then we did, there was a panic stop maneuver situation where you go 50 miles an hour and you slam the brakes to ABS and you have to maneuver around a cone so you don't hit the cones. We did a slalom setup where you did standing start, like 10 cone slalom, pin turn, 10 cone slalom back into a stop box. And then we did, I would say like a go-kart track size just session where you're hot lapping. And the big thing I took away from that is, the tire's amazing. It's really good, but it should be because it's a 200 tread wear tire by name, but what they were actually aiming at is the Cup 2Rs, the Goodyear Supercar 3Rs. So the tires that are typically more rated as 100 tread wear, because they're going after the market of like the GT3s and the people who have money and take their high-end cars to the track and would rather drive their car to the track. What did we say
when we talked about it, Kilgore?
Yeah. So that's the market I think they were really going after. But the tire itself, the way I would describe it is if you've ever driven a Hoosier R Comp, specifically like an A7 or R7, what you know with that tire is you can get away with blending your inputs more than you can with a street tire. And that's the thing that I noticed with this tire. When you're full threshold braking or when you're accelerating out of a corner, the tires like slip angle. They're like a yoke in that regard where they actually want a little bit of slip angle. But during that slip angle, they will accelerate better than the yoke. So they give you a little bit more traction while giving you lateral. And same with the braking situation. You can be locked on the brakes, turn the wheel. So you can blend the inputs. You get away with being a little bit more aggressive with how you put your inputs together, and the tire will respond. And that's one of the things that makes it really good. And it all makes sense when you look at how the tire is built when it comes to compound and that kind of thing. So great tire, awesome tire, not legal for SCCA 200 tread tire, however.
Yeah.
Because it was made in 5:30 seconds. So
yep.
And that is a very, very, a lot of people wonder why that rule exists, and that rule exists amongst other rules in the 200 tread wear category, because we want to make sure street tires remain street tires and don't become the A7 and R7s that we see now, because those tires all started from street tires. And if you look at the history of SCCA tires in the SCCA in competition, Andy Hollis did a great write-up about it in Grassroots Motorsports. You'll see that the tires will progress if you don't put a limiter on things to say, this is the line. You can't go past this line. And once you start fudging the line, it just keeps getting moved and moved and moved. And then you end up back with a race tire. So,
oh yeah, we talk about scope creep all the time on this podcast.
Yep.
I mean, what we're talking about now, I mean, the 200 tread wear game as a whole is kind of out of control.
Yeah.
From a realistic standpoint. I mean, how you describe the Hoosier tire is interesting to me, because I think that is going to be a situation that a lot of time attack people can kind of jump on. Not to say it's because they're very amateur drivers, but the blending of inputs, not having to be as precise with those motions and being able to get away with things is going to really make a big difference in how those guys can attack using that tire. And I think that's going to make a big difference, and people going to that tire and saying, this is the fastest tire. And it could just be, it is, but it also could just be because it allows you to get away with so much more.
Yeah. And I would say right now, any series that it is allowed in to compete in, if it's up against a 200 treadwear tire, yeah, I have no doubt that it's the faster of all the tires, faster than the yoke, faster than the Bridgestone. And that's part of our worry is that, we don't want to break the rules. We don't want to change things for this tire because it will become top dog tire. And I have no problem with the tire being faster. Nobody in the SCCA does. We all want faster tires, but we also are very focused on making sure that the peak performance over the tire's life stays as long as it possibly can as well. Our whole idea is street tires need to be able to be used multiple times, multiple events. It shouldn't wear out in a weekend. And I'm not saying the Hoosier will, but we're looking for that longevity along with the performance. So we want to see faster tires, but we also don't want that to become a situation where, the guy or gal who's, doing time attack on a regional level and can get 1 or 2 sets of tires a year, has one good event, and then the rest of the events, they're 2 seconds off their lap time, can never test it. Well, I'd rather see us, embrace tires that give them opportunity to do 2 or 3 events and still chase those times. And I believe there's tires out there like that. So that's where we're kind of leaning.
That's definitely the Bridgestone, at least currently from my experience. I mean, that's what I've been running. And I was at least able to get, a couple of events. Sure, there's that first initial grip level when they're brand new, but even after that, the fall off is pretty minimal. And most recently, I think I had about 20 heat cycles, getting close to 20 heat cycles on a set of the RE71 RSs, and in the middle of a weekend switched to a new set. Now, granted, I was at a track I had never been to before. I was at Mid-Ohio. So I was continuing to find time, right? Every session I'm continuing to find time because I'm getting more experience. I'm getting more comfortable with the track, more comfortable with the car. But it was pretty evident. I picked up about a second from the old tires to the new tires. I think is probably pretty reasonable, which is not a lot in terms of, after 20 heat cycles, right? That was 3 weekends. So I'd spent 3 events on those tires, and to lose a second, over the course of those 3 weekends, I think is very, very reasonable. And I think that that's a pretty good, measuring stick if the Hoosiers can hit that mark as well.
Yeah, and depending on how many laps you're getting at each event, because I know on Yokohama's, I've set new personal best at a local track on Yokohama's that have, probably 15 heat cycles on them.
Yep.
Okay.
So I think the current crop of tires does a pretty good job with that. Our thing is we don't want to give up where we're at just to go faster. We'd like to see where we're at while getting faster, if that makes sense. So
sure, absolutely.
The idea is to help our members be able to afford to even come to events, because we all know everything's so expensive when it comes to consumables. It's all just.
I'm actually waiting, to be honest with you, when it comes to like 200 treadwear tires. I'm actually very much waiting for the 200 treadwear moniker portion of it to kind of get thrown out, and organizations start allowing from a particular tire spec more so, because the 200 treadwear rating system has such a wide variety in terms of lap time and endurance and peak performance. So I've kind of been waiting for the moment when people are going to start saying, okay, well, this class, we allow X tire, Y tire, and Z tire. Next class, it allows this tire, and this tire. Just a thought. I mean, I'm just coming at it from that perspective of, I think the tires are getting to this, like you were saying, right? We're kind of pushing these limits. Those 200 treadwear tires are getting past these limits of, credibility when it comes to treadwear.
And I'll tell you, I've learned more about tires than I ever thought I would this last year specifically. So yeah, I've learned a lot about the treadwear rating system, how much room is left in the 200 treadwear, what the actual limit is there. None of the big companies are really right up against it because it costs so much to do the testing. A lot of it is more engineering exercises to say, yep, we're close enough, don't go closer. But the big thing with, I love the idea of a spec tire too. It would be awesome because it'd be easier to do contingency, that kind of stuff. I would love it. The problem is, if you talk about sport and tuner and max in our world, the various wheel sizes between diameters and widths and everything like that, trying to find a manufacturer that has all of that becomes extremely challenging.
Yes, it does.
It's getting better. There are some brands out there that offer a lot of sizes. So I'm hopeful. I'd love that opportunity. I'd love to do something like that where it would really even out things, for our competitors, while also, like I said, I'd love to have a tire contingency in there as well, which, would benefit the drivers too. So,
yeah, it's pretty interesting how the tire contingencies over the last, I mean, even 15, 20 years, they got to be really strong. And now about the last 5 to 10 years, they've kind of fallen off. You just don't see the tire contingencies as much anymore. It'd kind of be nice to see that come back, possibly. They're still out there, here and there for specific classes, right? Comes to mind, Grid Life, Sunday Cup, and Falcon Club TR, right? Those run the Falcon RT 660s. But to your point, those are spec tire classes with very limited sizes based on the cars that can run there, right? When you start to getting into some of these other classes, especially the more modified, heavily modified classes, you get all sorts of different cars with all sorts of different tire width capabilities. And yeah, you're absolutely right. It becomes very difficult. So going back to this launch event, have you, I mean, you've been in this area for quite a while. You've been with the SCCA for quite a while. You've been a motorsports fan for a long time. But have you ever really seen a launch event, especially from a tire manufacturer like this? Like this blew mine and Jager's minds. Like when we heard about it and we started getting like all the details, we were like, this is crazy. And the social media explosion was wild.
No, yeah, they did an extremely good job with it. It's more akin to like a car release, in my opinion, from what I've seen, and from having friends that do this kind of thing, either on the backside of things or as journalists. I don't think the tire side of things has seen anything quite like this, but I told the folks, Hoosier, that I met, Mark and those guys, they knocked it out of the park. They did a heck of a job. You could tell all the little details. I mean, even the hotel room key, Track Pro, Hoosier on it, like bottles of water in the fridge had Hoosier on it, like the coffee cups in the room, Hoosier.
We noticed the gloves of every driver.
Yeah, they gave us a helmet. We never even used it.
That's awesome.
I have a helmet with my name on it. It has Hoosier on it. It's a Simpson SA 2020 helmet.
Wow.
I never even put on my head. It stayed in the box. They're shipping it to me currently. At least I think they are. Maybe they're waiting to see if we do any legalization things. But yeah, it was an all out, like, come experience this tire, check it out. And the people that were there, like Adam talked about this, I think, even on his podcast, but we both agreed we had a little bit of imposter syndrome walking in there, because I'm like, I've met Ben Lynn before, but not anywhere outside of a racetrack. But, Rob down there, and Ben and Zach, that's it, Zach from Smoking Tire, and just the various people that you see on YouTube channels, and you're just like, and then it's like, who are you again? I'm like, hi, I'm John from the SCCA. Larry Chen's there taking our picture. I mean,
that's awesome.
It was the who's who of Time Attack and YouTube world. So it was really cool in that regard.
Let's hope that
awesome, man.
Let's hope that continues, man. Let's hope, Bridgestone, Nanking, Yokohama, you guys need to step it up. We need more of that. Absolutely.
Yeah, that was wild. I really can't wait to see if we get some follow-up from other manufacturers to see if that's going to continue. All right, John. So let's kind of move it along a little bit. Let's get into the history of the SCCA and Time Trials. Give us a brief history. I know it's long and distinguished, but give us just a brief history so the listeners can understand what it is and where it all came from.
Well, I don't know if I'm the perfect person to give this talk. John Krolitz, Hayward Wagner, they were in this far longer than, or they understood this side, and were involved with it more than I was. I came from the autocross world, but I knew time trials existed. I always wanted to get involved with it. I'm one of those guys who watched the time attack videos from Japan and was like, oh my God, I got to do
Heck
this.
yeah,
This is
man.
awesome. Because as an autocrosser, to me, it feels very familiar. Where you're just trying to perfect that lap, right? But no, time attack or time trials existed, but it wasn't widespread. Didn't really have a national organization side to it, even though it was within the SCCA, but regions had it, and a lot of the rules didn't really promote accessibility. And so we did a hard rethink of it in about 2017, 2018, and just kind of rewrote the rules. John Krolitz did a ton of work, and just kind of sat down and said, okay, if we're starting from scratch, what are we doing? And so that's kind of what he did. The focus was on making it accessible to as many people as possible, making it safe at the same time, making it fun, and giving everybody a chance to find a place to play, whether you're a driver or a builder or just one of the guys who likes to fidget with the settings on the car, that kind of thing. There's a place for everybody. So that's kind of where that morphed, is in that time. And since then, we've just been trying to build a national level or aspect of it while growing the regions underneath. And we've seen an explosion across the nation, albeit understandably a little bit more on the eastern side of the Rockies. We're working on the West Coast. I'm over here now, so I'm going to be pushing hard. But
West Coast is that hard nut to crack, man.
Yeah, it is. But we've seen a real big growth of time attack and time trials within each region, and we think it's really important. Like I'm an autocrosser. I autocrossed for 2 decades. I still autocross. But we also know it's getting harder and harder to find sites to do that, and the challenges there are real. And we want to make sure that there's an outlet where we can still enjoy motorsport and what we consider a way that can be digested in a car that you take home and you drive to work, or that's your prized possession. I think that's a lot why a lot of us probably don't end up road racing is, we have a car that we love and we don't want to see that car get damaged in any way. So we don't necessarily want to put it on a racetrack with other cars where we go fender to fender. We want to make the car look awesome. We want to make the car as fast as we can. We want to break records with it. And I think that's the heart of where time trials is, at least in my opinion. It's the enjoying the car culture aspect of it, whether you come from the American side or the JDM side or the European side. But we all love to tinker, make things faster, and to see how fast can we take that thing around the track. So,
I mean, I think a big thing a commonality that I've seen from a multitude of drivers, they like the idea of competing against themselves. They love that constant, like, I don't need to go out and, beat X driver. I need to go out and beat my lap time. And when you go out and can beat your own lap time, you're competing against yourself in your car. And whether that be you did modifications or you got driver coaching or you got the latest sticky tire that's faster than everything in the world, whatever the case may be, it's like you go out there and that way that makes you feel, at least for me, like that was a big thing where the way that it made me feel to be like, I just beat my best lap time. I mean, I'm going to say it right now. Last weekend, I went out to Willow Springs and just bested my best lap time in my Mustang by like 5/100ths of a second. And
Brad,
I still fist pumped. I still fist bumped the whole way after that, after that lap, like, oh, yeah, just did it, yeah. And that's the kind of thing, like, that's what we're looking for in time trials and time attack. It's doesn't matter if you're first or if you're last, it's you built a rad car that you enjoy, that you think is awesome, and you go to the track and just get to run your fastest lap time possible. And that's, to me, like what I really love about time attack. And, I'm going on a little rant here about, the joy of the sport, but that's to me what it really comes down to. And that's what's really cool about it.
you just spoke to my heart, because that's exactly what I tell people. It's a weird comparison, but I feel like time attack's like golf. You can go there with your buddies, you can compete with your buddies, but really you're trying to improve your par score, right? And I don't golf, so I'm guessing on some of this, but no, I get it. And it's exactly it. It's improving your lap, whether you do it from better driving or you do it from that extra mod that gave you that extra time. Oh, I added aero and now I'm faster. And that's one of the reasons I pushed really hard, and we're still growing this, but on our website, we have a records and best portion on the website. And the goal is, when you go in there, you can look yourself up and you can see your improvement year over year. So you can see your record, your personal. You can find the record for the class, so you can find out how fast that class is. You can also look by car. So you can see, was I the fastest S2000 at NCM? Or was I the fastest tuner Miata at NCM? And my goal is to kind of get it by chassis and get it all broken down, so that, to me, podiums are cool, but to me, a podium isn't necessarily what time attack's about. Like you said, it's about that improvement and about setting records, whether it be yours, your personal best, or the record for the class. To me, that's where time attack really stands out. And that's where I've kind of shifted the program towards, is really celebrating the records. We celebrate podiums, top 3. That's awesome. We'll get medals there too, but the medals for first place through third, are usually just medals. But if you set a new record, you get a plaque with a gold record on it. And we send it with your name and your class, because, man, setting a record is that's what it's about.
Yeah, that's cool.
And I couldn't, you stated that so perfectly and so well, because the records are what time attack are all about.
Yeah,
awesome.
And that's, Jager and I, that's something, and I think a lot of time attack drivers have that same mindset, but Jager and I, we both talked about how, especially for me, when the thing that always strikes me is, I go out and you do a lap and you're like, man, like that was a good lap. Like that, like I really, I put it out there and I did a particular time, but then you come back and it may even be the next session. It may be the next day, right? Especially always that next morning session. You go out and then you improve by like another half second, another second. You're like, I didn't think that was possible. I didn't think there was any way that I could go an even second faster, right? And then you just continue to chip away. And that's the thing that I always enjoy, is like, I didn't think I could do any better, and now I've just proven to myself that I can do better. And now I need to do it again, and I need to do it again, and I need to make some changes to the car and do it again, right? Like that's And that's the thing that I love, especially like. And there's nothing better to me than throwing on some modifications to the car and feeling how that changes the car, feeling how more you can push, more braking, more power, whatever it is. And then you see that lap time fall and you're like, yes, right? Like I did something specifically to affect my lap time, and now I have a tangible improvement in lap time, and I'm going to do it again, and I'm going to do it again, right? You need that hit, to continue. Because, man, it could be so frustrating when you don't improve your time on a weekend, right? And maybe you were expecting to, maybe the weather wasn't as good, or maybe the track's just not as good, right? Like that can get super frustrating. And I think that sort of is that hit that you continually look for to improve your lap time. And then when it doesn't happen, you start freaking out like, what's going on? The car, I got to get a new car. I need something.
The car's always broken.
No, that's you hit the nail on the head there, because there's so many things that impact that perfect lap, right? And it's everything from weather, car setup. Did you go over that, and even your mental? Where are you at? Where did you come in ready to compete at the highest level? Because it's an athlete thing. I mean, you have to be ready to go mentally and physically, as well as having the car ready to go. So no, like that 500 of a second improvement, rad. Because I bet you've been to that track a bunch of times. And
oh yeah,
it gets harder and harder and harder to find that improvement. So when you get it, it's even more of a hit, right? Because it's, now you're chipping away at the smallest little increments consistently. So when you get them, it's palpable and awesome. So
yes,
and I think that also goes to right, when you sort of get to that level and you can start chipping away at those small increments that you've noticed, right? Like I'm finding very small, subtle changes in driving style and driving line, and I'm seeing improvements where, right, when you first start off on, whether it's autocross, whether it's on the track at track days, right, like you have very large fluctuations in your time. And that's something that I think Jager, he does quite a bit of coaching, right? Like you'll take a consistent driver over someone who's fast and then slow and then fast, and they don't know what they did to go fast. And then they're, right? Like you want someone who's consistent, and then you continually make improvements, right? Okay, I'm braking a little bit later. I'm braking a little bit later. I'm carrying a little more speed. And I think that as you progress, you start to find those small times, right? And like the Formula One guys are the ones who impress me, or even just the pro drivers, right? Like they're the guys that absolutely impress me in terms of half a pound of a tire pressure change, right? And they find, they can feel that, right? Like I'm not even close to that sort of level, and I don't think most of us are out there. We're just out there enjoying it, but it's fun when you can start to see that improvement of, you're like, yeah, like I braked a car length later, and especially now with data, you can specifically see, okay, I gained that half tenth, I gained that tenth, and you can start to plug all that into your driving. And when you are able to execute, that's what we're talking about, right? Executing that perfect lap, and you get that fist bump, and
It's funny. One of the things you mentioned is if we were to roll in towards talk about Time Trials Nationals or even a Time Trials National Tour event, you kind of hit the nail on the head on one of the things and why we built the event the way we do is we want to see that consistency of driver, and we want you to be fast, but we want to see that consistency. So like at Time Trials Nationals, we have multiple different days where you have to get a fast lap, and you put them all together. And that means that you can't just do it one day. You get, 4 sessions each day, and you happen to hit the magic one day. Whereas this one is like, okay, you got the first score, now you got to go get 3 more. And you got to make it
Yep.
consistent. You got to be on your game the entire time. So it's a weird combination of being involved in a sprint, but over a marathon.
Yeah, I like that. And
that's very interesting.
Yeah, and that is something that I enjoy it, and that's one reason why I like Time Trial Nationals. It is different. It serves its right. It has its place, and but going back, right, I think about when I got started in this, back in like 2010, 2011. I mean, you had guys that would come out. They might skip the first session. Second session, it's a little hot, third session, it's cooled down, we've got some cloud cover, all right, I'm going to go out, right? They wait for that perfect session. They go out, especially if it's a track they've been to, they lay down their best lap, and then they're like, all right, well, I don't think I can go any faster. They might go out another session, I was slower, all right, well, I had the fastest lap, I won, I'm going to pack it up, right? Like, and that has its place. I don't have any issue with the sort of traditional time attack layout. I mean, that's great. I mean, that's what we all kind of grew up watching. But I also like that you have to be able to do it over multiple days. And I mean, I think that we're starting to see a little bit of a shift in the way that people are building these time attack cars. I mean, I think if you're looking at, I think this is dictated a little bit by the use of these high-end like Michelin slicks that actually take more than 1 lap to get up to temperature. But I think if you look at, Ferris Khartoumi, even if you look at the World Time Attack Challenge guys, I mean, the RP968, we were watching I think it was Skura Motorsports, the guys with the Lotus Elise. I mean, they were specifically talking about, we are now building the car to do multiple laps. We need it to last multiple laps. We need to get the tires in the heat, and they're finding that they can run faster lap times instead of only getting 4 laps over a weekend. If they can double that to 8, they can improve the amount of data they're getting, and they can improve the adjustments on the car, because that now they have more data to go through. And so I kind of think that we're seeing somewhat of a shift to cars don't need to be at such a ragged edge that they are unreliable. They need to be a little more reliable, and we need them to last a few laps and over multiple days.
As an event organizer, I'm all about reliable cars that last and do not have problems on track.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
Another black flag. I was halfway through my lap. Bring it in. This is frustrating.
Yeah,
We've all been there.
Slowly been working on ways to mitigate that. And we've taken a step this year, and we're pretty good about it.
I will say this: the
difficult part.
The implementation of the safety car with grid life has worked well. Obviously, it may not work in all situations, but I've been there and run in a couple instances where we've had that, and it worked super well because we didn't have to come off track. Everyone just sort of kept circulating. They were able to get the safety truck out there, get the car, and then they took the yellow flags back in, and now everybody can get back and going. And I applaud Adam Jabay and those guys for kind of looking at that and figuring out a way to implement it. And if other guys, if SCCA or whoever else can do that, like, it actually works pretty well. I was surprised. I'm all for it.
Doesn't make sense. I didn't even realize they had done that. I'm gonna have to give Adam a call.
Yeah. Yep. So John, a little bit more. Yeah. Well, go ahead. Go ahead, Jager.
All right. So John, how did you actually become like? How did it really manifest from you going from autocrosser from racer autocrosser to now you're involved with this TT program at such a level and having such a great impact with it? How did that really manifest itself? How did you get from A to B?
Oh, it's an interesting story. Like I said, I was an autocrosser, SCCA member, had been for over almost 2 decades at that point, and Hayward had become a friend. I started doing some track night stuff, and then they brought up the time trial stuff. And my first role within the time trials program was actually as a coach. So I showed up and I would coach and drove and that kind of thing. And I got this crazy idea that I decided I wanted to make my hobby my job, and talk to Hayward more about it. And they brought me in. I started off the SCCA. I think I was doing some partnership work and some other stuff, but quickly got involved with the time trials program to a point where I was working with John Krolwitz, who was running the program, but I was managing the tour, the national tour. And then Jager stepped away to go over to the road racing side and help them. And that's when I became the time trials program manager. So it was if it was a quick trip and fall into this position, so to speak. It all happened very, very quickly. But yeah, it's been an awesome ride. I like I said, I started coaching and I love coaching. I like to see light bulbs. I like to see people have fun. I like to see people find excitement in their improvements and getting the most out of their car and themselves. And so it kind of makes sense that I'm involved with the Time Attack program, because that's, like, as we just talked about, that's kind of the point of it. So
yeah, I will say that's I can definitely relate to you in that sense, because one of the biggest things that I love is when you do coach. Like, my favorite person to coach is like their first time out or second time out, right? And you get that it's like that young love of going out on track and stuff like that, where they're doing some things that are a little sketchy, and you're reining them in, but you're having a good time doing it, and the look on their face when they pull off track, it's just one of the things that I love to see. I love to see that the enjoyment, the happiness, and kind of how they react to you is so enjoyable to me, to see that they're oh, it was so cool. Did you see what I just did? Oh, my lap time just got so much better. Or like you said, the light bulb, right? The light bulb of like, wow, that's how you take that corner.
Right.
Oh man,
that's what that's supposed to feel like.
Yes. Like, it's such an enjoyable feeling. That's something that I continue to love to this day. Every time I go to the track, there's always, It's great. You get to talk to a bunch of individuals. Like I said, I was out in my Mustang having a good time. A guy who was there with his dad and a friend, and they had another Mustang. And the dad's like, dude, you're cooking it out there. Let's talk about, how we can, get my son in the car with you. So throw his son in the car with me and took him out and just showed him lines, not particularly trying to show him up to go fast, but just showing him the lines at the track. And by the end of the day, the guy comes back to me and he's like, dude, I dropped 7 seconds off my lap time after riding
That's
with
awesome.
you. And you're like, yes, that's what I love to hear. Like those type of things, I just can't ever get enough of. Those
And now
awesome.
he's hooked.
Yeah, absolutely. He was a kid from Cal Poly, just having a good time, just trying to check it out for the first time. So
Yeah,
it's super cool.
I think it's one of those things where when you love something so much, you find so much joy in something, you want to share that joy with other people. So when they pick up on it and you see them have the reaction that you had when you got involved, or that you still have as you're doing the thing, there's something powerful in that. So it's pretty cool. I think that's one of the reasons that myself and people like Justin Barber, who runs the Track Night in America program, is one of my coaches, and Hayward himself and JK, we all got involved is that exact reason. Is we'd like to see the people. I love it when people come off track and they're just like, you were pumping your fist and they're super excited because they just got a new PB, and I feel like I got the personal best right alongside them.
Yeah, heck yeah, man. Yeah. So awesome.
And I'll say this as well. I think that, and I think this goes across all the time attack programs. I've seen it. Doesn't really matter what group you run in, but the camaraderie that forms within classes and within even car types or etc. I just don't think you see that in a lot of other places. I think you see it in solo as well, but in so many forms of competition, it's adversarial. But there's last year, right at Time Trial Nationals, I was in Tuner 2, and Mark Sarsevich, can't remember exactly how you say it, but right, he put on a new set of tires and reset the record, and we were all so stoked for him to go out and do that, right? It was an impressive time, and everybody in the class was giving him high fives, yeah, that's awesome. And I think that you generally see that, right? When somebody moves that mark a little bit deeper, everyone's excited because they're like, all right, well, now we got a new record to chase, and everybody's sort of moving in that same direction. And I it's just something that I think is generally unique to motorsports, and especially time attack. You see that, and I just think it's super cool, and I love giving high fives to my competitors, knowing that they just beat me, but they just laid down a killer lap. Good for them. I didn't do it, they did. High five, way to go. I'm gonna try and get you next time.
Heck yeah, man. It's a very, like you said, it's a very unique aspect to time attack and time trials in general. And I don't know if I really don't know if I could say that I've seen it anywhere else.
Yeah.
No, it's
well.
Yeah, I was going to say, coming from the autocross world, I've had one of my, actually a few of my biggest rivals, so to speak, within STR, the place where I typically race, are also really good friends. And it's, we'll help each other out. A good friend of mine, Dan McKelvey, who's multinational champion, would gladly give me set of advice every event until nationals. That's his rule. He's like, I'm here. I'll help you out every way I can. But once we get to that show, then it's every man for himself. But
that's awesome.
But no, that's what you guys talked about. That's the exact culture we try to build within the time trials world. That's why we have the impounds after every session. It's not the people in your class, but it's the people you're running right next to, and we want to make sure that everybody knows everybody and can celebrate with them when they set new personal bests. But also just get to know each other and get to know that, hey, we're all here for the same reason. We're all having a good time. And yeah, I love to see that culture build and people hanging out and just kicking it on track and off track.
Yeah. Well, I will say this, I got to brag on John, and I think this goes to just the time trial staff in general. I don't know if you guys have training on it, or maybe it's just y'all all have the same demeanor. But and John, please don't take offense to this. I think probably one of my favorite things is the way that you guys are able to keep your cool and keep your calm with the online social media and the Facebook groups and everything that goes on, because we all know drivers are the worst complainers, and you guys do such a good job of like keeping everybody calm. Like there's always, people blowing up, like, and I'm always impressed. You guys come in with a level head, and I'm like, it takes a special person to be able to come in and, program whatever, no new rule change, this, that, people are freaking out, and you guys do such a good job. So I have to put that out there. Like, congrats to you guys. You'll probably don't get told enough. But you guys do a really good job with running the program, and keeping that Facebook group, calm.
I appreciate that. The one thing I'll say on that is, we want our members and our drivers and our participants to be passionate and love what they do. And when you have passion, it flows a few different ways. So it comes with the territory, and it's understandable. I'm a driver myself. I get heated about things myself. It is interesting being on the other side of the coin when you're the organizer. I think it makes it easier for me to look at things as a driver, go, oh, okay, that I shouldn't get quite upset. I get why it's happening, type thing.
Sure.
But at the same time, we're all passionate about what we do. So some heatedness is expected.
Yeah.
At times.
Yeah. Sure. But I think that goes back to what you were saying, though. We're all sitting behind our keyboards, right? Typing away. We're all sort of in our own bubble. But I like what you guys do. You have the impound. You've got to get out. You've got to take your helmet off, and you've got to look the guy in the eye and put a face with the car, and you realize that the guy or girl's actually like pretty cool. They're very nice, and you know what? Like, yeah, and I've had it happen to me, right? Like, I'm sorry, man. I put my car in a bad spot. I saw one car behind me, but I didn't see that you were so close to the car behind him, and I got in a bad spot, man. I'm sorry, right? Like, you just got to own it, and that can diffuse the situation pretty quickly, right? Like, take your helmet off, put a face with the car, and people tend to be pretty nice, pretty forgiving.
Yeah, we look at it like road rage situation. It's really easy to hate a car. But the way I always put it is, that driver in that red Corvette was a jerk. They were a complete asshole. But once you get out of the car and learn it's Bob, Bob's actually pretty cool. Bob's a cool guy. Bob just made a mistake. And Bob's okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, speaking of Time Trial Nationals, let's get to it. 2024 TT Nationals, October 24th to 27th. First year that it's going to be, I guess, officially 4 days of competition. Tell us a little bit about that. It's at NCM Motorsports Park. Can you give us a little bit of rundown of what I think is one of the most underappreciated tracks in the country? I feel like not many people really know about it. When I talked, especially these West Coast guys, these guys are
no
like,
clue
what
about this track.
NCM, what is that? And it's like, man, like, you guys don't even know. This is a great track.
I do not disagree. And I know one of the things we talked about possibly talking about at some point is what the best time attack track is in the country. So Time Trials Nationals at NCM, what it is 4 days. Historically, the first day has been practice, three practice sessions, and then you get into the actual competition where you get 3 sessions to get your fastest lap on Friday. We had 2 track sprints on Saturday where you took your fastest run from each track sprint. And then on Sunday, we went back to the full track, and you got 2 sessions to get your fastest lap on Sunday. This year, what we're going to do is we're going to give you 1 practice session on Thursday, and we're going to take the next 2 sessions on Thursday and then the 3 sessions on Friday and give you 5 opportunities to get your fastest lap. Part of the reason I did that is through various events that we've had over the last couple of years, I've learned that weather is a thing, and sometimes it rains on one day and it doesn't rain on the other. Sometimes it snows on one day and doesn't snow on the other. We won't go into that.
Brutal.
But my whole thing is I want everybody to get the best opportunity to get their best foot forward to kick off their event. Like, I want everybody to come in to the competition with their first score saying, yeah, okay, I did I did as best as I could. So now I'm ready to get going. So I want to give you as many opportunities to go forward. And that's the thing is, the other thing that I think will happen over those course of those 5 sessions is someone by the end of Thursday might go, okay, yeah, that's my lap. I looked at the data. I know my driving. I know where I've been at on this track. I've got my lap. I don't necessarily need to run these next sessions. I might go out, do some testing here and there, but that's going to free up the track for the other drivers who still need to look for their time as well. So there's a bunch of different ways where I think that benefits the driver, from getting your best put forward, reducing the car count on the track even more than we work to do that. So you get the 5 sessions to start off over 2 days. And then on Saturday, we're sticking with 1 track sprint this year. But what we're going to do is, where we've had a track sprint on the east side of the course and a track sprint on the west side of the course, we're doing track sprint on the east side, but we're going to do 2 3-lap sessions on the west side. And we're going to take your fastest lap from those 2 sessions. So you get 6 total laps to get your fastest lap on the west side. So you've gone from 2 days to get your best time to now, boom, you got 6 laps. Got to get it done. And then, like I said, we're sticking with the track sprint on the east side. We looked at doing some lapping over there. We were really close to pulling the trigger on that potentially. It was more of a logistic problem to get that done than anything. And also, we know that there are people that really like the track sprint. It's you want to talk about one of the most divisive topics within the SCCA Time Trials world. Track sprint is it way above tires or classing.
He speaks the truth.
Track sprint is a thing. So, and then on Sunday, we're going to go back to 3. We're going to do 3 sessions on Sunday instead of just 2. Once again, we want to make sure everybody has a really good opportunity to get their laps in. And this year, just like we did last year, we have Ultimate Track Car Challenge coming in with Grassroots Motorsports, and their inclusion is going to be on Thursday and Friday only. And anybody that's doing Ultimate Track Car Challenge and Time Trials Nationals, because you can do that again this year, will run just the exact same amount of sessions as you would if you were just doing TTN. So there'll be 6 total UTCC sessions on Thursday and Friday, just like there are for Time Trials Nationals. There'll be a practice to start, and you get 5 to get your fastest Ultimate Track Car Challenge lap. But it just so happens that lap will also be your fastest Time Trials Nationals competition lap. So it means no leg up or advantage for someone who's doing both. I wanted to make sure that while we include them and brought that show to this event, because I think we're going to see some really awesome cars as part of this, it also makes sure that the fairness is still there for everybody else that isn't doing it. That's a big key for me, is to make sure that we're keeping things as on the up and as fair as we can.
So I've got a couple questions there. Let's go back to the West Course track lapping.
Yes.
I'm not sure exactly what you called it, but so is that going to be like very reduced car counts, very small car counts for that West Course, or is it going to be like single car? Like 1 lap of America style, or what's sort of that?
It'll be, since I know you've done the event with us, you'll pick up on it quick. So on Sundays we would do what we call the small sessions, where we take the group of 20 some cars, we divide them in half and send half out, and then send the next half out once those other cars come in. That's what we'll be doing over on the West Course. So you'll have a smaller amount of cars on track, because obviously it's a smaller overall track. And that's one of the reasons you're also doing 3 laps versus 4 or 5. So we'll do.
Gotcha.
Yeah, if you're looking at the map here, and I can't remember, what is it?
So in previous years, I think it was it turned 23. We then took the cut through down the front straight, turned back to turn 15.
Well, that was for the East Course, so that was
okay. Yeah, you're right. Yeah,
that was track sprint. So the West Course is turns 1 through 12, and then you'll turn that hard right back onto the main straight and come back. Yep. So it's a little faster course. It's not as technical. There is some technicality to it. Obviously, 10's a tight corner. You got deception thrown in there. You've got the really fast 5 leading into a very decreasing corner that goes into 6, obviously. So it just adds a little bit of a difference. And the one thing that makes it really interesting for the West Coast is we still are going to have a situation where we take your fastest lap if you drop, if you have an off track or anything like that. So that means you have to, it's kind of like one lap, where at one lap, if you drop a wheel, period, this is kind of similar in that situation where you only get 6 total laps, and you're going to need to keep the car on the course. You're going to have to keep the car where you need to, but you're still going to need to run a fast lap. And that goes back to where we want to see fast driving, but we want to see consistency and a show of control.
Controllability. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I think that's something that can be said in events that I've definitely been a part of and definitely gone to, where that level of control, and I get it, people are trying to push to the max to get every possible second, millisecond out of their car. But the control factor, the precision driving factor kind of gets thrown out the window, and that right foot just gets buried. And that's when you start seeing people fly off track, losing concentration, and start getting into those types of situations that can be very not so fun for the organizers and for the people driving the vehicles.
And what's
cool.
And what's interesting, and Mark, since I know you do some coaching, I'm guessing you'll agree with me, is that's also when you start to go slower.
Yeah.
There's a level of aggression that works. There's a level of aggression that works, and then there's a level of aggression that hurts you. So sometimes it's better to not brake later, but brake earlier and brake less. We'll just go with that.
Yep. And you're seeing this implemented across multiple organizations. You guys are doing it, and I like it for a variety of reasons, many that you've hit on. It keeps the schedule going better. It keeps all the other drivers, from having to come off the track and do all that stuff. It also, it requires you to be precise in your driving and not just, we all like to go full send, but we need to go full send within reason. And you guys are implementing this with the SCCA. Grid Life has also implemented this in a similar fashion in the podium sprint. If you go 4 wheels off, you're done. Like all your times are canceled. Doesn't matter if it was your first lap or last lap, right? Like, you got to keep it on the track, and I like that. I think it's important. So I'm glad to see everybody starting to implement something like that. So going back to your SCCA Time Trial Nationals and the Ultimate Track Car Challenge on Thursday, Friday. So if you run, I was a little confused on this. If you run a session for the Time Trial Nationals, does that count towards your UTCC? Or if you run in the UTCC session, does that count towards your TT Nats time?
Yes, it's actually kind of the latter. So basically, when you look at the schedule, we'll have 7 groups right now, and the schedule is going to get probably tweaked as we see exactly how many people we have for coming into Time Trial Nationals and UTCC. But currently, you have 7 groups for Time Trials Nationals. You have 2 for UTCC. I'm going to knock it down to 1. But every driver who's doing both UTCC and TTN will be in the UTCC group. And so they'll just run their session within that group. And then once they get done on Friday, we will look at their best time and slot them into the appropriate time trials group moving forward. So it'll actually be really seamless and pretty easy to do.
Yeah. If they plan to run the car, I guess, in a configuration that does not fit within their TT Nats rule book, they just need to let you guys know or something like that, right? If I decide to throw on a set of Hoosiers, but I'm running tuner, like I just need to say, hey, this won't count for TT national times.
They'll have to run. If they're going to run for TTN, they have to run TTN legal during UTCC.
Okay, gotcha. All right, good to know. I guess I'll have to send those Hoosier, track attack pros back.
Yeah, I know some people plan on trying to do the Hoosiers on for one and then go back to the 200 treadwear for the other. And it like I said, there's no way to facilitate that while also keeping the amount of track time they're getting similar to what everybody else is getting.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And while it's two different events. We want to make sure that they flow together and it makes sense for all the drivers.
So how many current registrants do you currently have for this event?
We're right about 190. I'm really hoping we get
Wow.
back into the 200s this year. I know there's some people that have yet to sign up. Some actually notable names actually. And they keep telling me they're going to sign up and they just haven't yet. I'm like, well, where are you?
Hey,
so
you know
that's
how
a
it goes,
reminder.
man. You gotta
If
get
you're
that
listening
car
to this and you
ready.
haven't signed up, time to get in.
We're waiting
So,
to see
yeah,
that last minute forecast, right? That last minute weather forecast.
Right. So yeah, we're right about 190. We've had a high, I think our biggest entry count, I don't know if it was 18 or 19, was right around 218, just short of 220, or right about there. So we're a little bit off full time, but or full the biggest amount that we've ever had, but we're getting back. It was after the tornadoes, we had a pretty big dip in registrations when NCM got hit with the tornadoes. And it's been a slow build back since then. So hoping to send NCM off, since it's our last year running there for now, with the Time Trials Nationals specifically. We'll be back with the Time Trials National Tour, of course, but for Time Trials National, we're hoping to send it out with a big event with lots of drivers and hopefully a bunch of new records.
How do you manage 200 participants at this event? I mean, generally coming, from West Coast guy and stuff like that. And I know Grid Life had a crap ton of people at this last event here at Laguna. But how do you guys manage 200 people at these events and keep good spacing and allow people to get good lap times?
Good coaching and really putting the onus and on the drivers and telling them, explaining what a gap lap looks like and what spacing looks like. And I've worked really hard over the years. We've kind of tweaked how we run this program, from the tours all the way to Time Trials Nationals, where we started off where we just ran HPDE style, advanced, intermediate, novice. And what we found is we were running that way consistently for the tour. If we had three groups, we'd have advanced drivers, intermediate drivers, and novice drivers. And we were Road America one year, and an advanced driver can drive a Sport 6 Miata, or they can drive an Unlimited 1 GTR. And in this situation, we had those two cars. We had Kyle Carrick in his GTR, and we had some Miatas out there. And Kyle Carrick passed some Miatas at full send on his first lap before the Miatas even took the green flag. Because Road Atlanta is just, it's that fast, and it's not super long. And that car's so fast. And I started looking, I'm like, the delta in times between the fastest and slowest car within this group is insane, and it's not workable. It doesn't make sense. So that's when we kind of came up with the idea of, if you're an advanced driver, even if you've done, no point bypassing, you don't mind having point buys. I know I give point buys when I don't have to. I just want to make sure the driver knows what I'm doing. So I'm like, as an advanced driver, I don't care. So why don't we have advanced drivers do intermediate passing and work with the intermediate drivers? And if I can put those two groups together, then I can reduce the delta between the fastest and slowest car. And that kind of got me rolling down the hill of, Time Trials Nationals, we have 7 groups. So now I have one novice group, because novice will always be novice. We want to keep those people in a situation that's good for them as well as good for the other drivers. But now I have 6 groups that can all run intermediate passing rules, and whether they're got a pro license or an intermediate license, they can all work together. And now I have 6 groups that I can reduce the delta between the fastest car and the slowest car on. And this year, starting actually at the end of last year, and I've been working on it this year, I'm taking a step further where now I'm looking at slightly increasing the delta between the fastest and slowest car, but I'm also looking at how cars build speed. So I'm trying to put cars that are more momentum-y together, and cars that have more horsepower but aren't as fast around the corners together, especially as you get into the not as quick classes, or not as quick groups. Because some folks, they run similar times in a Corvette and a Miata. Well, they're doing it in completely different ways.
Oh yeah, And I guarantee you, no matter what you say or do, that Corvette guy is always going to say that Miata's holding them up.
Or the Miata's getting held up because, exactly. And so my goal has been always to give the best on-track experience I can. And part of that to me is we can fit, 10 cars per mile on a track if we put them in the right position, if we do our due diligence to get the deltas and times between the fast and slowest cars down enough, and the drivers do their side to say, okay, I only need about a 3-car gap. We tell people when you're on your first lap, it should look like the second or third lap of a Formula One race, where there might be a pass coming, but in your heart of hearts, it's over. There's not going to be a pass. So we try to tell people that's kind of what you're looking for, is you want to give just enough space where that yo-yo can happen, where you can kind of ebb and flow back and forth, but nobody's impeding anybody. And people work really hard, and the first session is usually not great. It's people are learning each other, but by the second, especially by the third, usually people have it down, and they've got it worked out, and people get really good laps in. So that's the big thing I've worked on is trying to make sure that we're very cognizant of how much time difference there is between the fast and slow car, and then also how they make their speed, so that we can maximize the potential of getting that perfect lap.
How much time do they get per session?
So I think, if I remember correctly, practice is still 20 minutes, but once we go into actual competition, we go down to 15 minutes.
I like that. I like that because I think one of the things that always has bothered me in recent years with a lot of time attack stuff is we're still given like a full 20-minute plus session for every group. And, to kind of counter Kilgore's discussion earlier about reliable time attack cars, I go down that rabbit hole of what do I end up seeing? The first 3 to 5 minutes of the session, extremely hot, tons of cars, everybody's going for hot laps. And then I watch the rest of the 10 minutes where we get down to like 2 or 3 cars doing hot laps by themselves. And it's nice to see we reduce that time, because what do people want to do? They want to go out, do a hot lap, maybe 2, come in, change some settings, maybe go out, do one more hot lap, and then they generally pull in and then need to go do like full checkouts and change like multiple settings or something like that.
Yeah.
So to me, I've always been under the kind of train of thought of realistically, depending on track for obvious reasons for time, something more like a 10 to 15 minute time out on track at a time would suffice. So
And
I like that.
You have some
John
people
can speak a little bit to this, but I think they've done a really interesting, I don't know if you want to call it experiment, but they asked the question, and I think that we were a little surprised by the overwhelming majority of people who said, I would rather give me 2 or 3 laps with half the number of cars and allow me to get 3 good laps in versus 15 minutes of double the number of cars, and I've got to fight and find a spot, right? Like the majority the majority of people at TT Nat said, yeah, like give me 2 or 3 clean laps, and I'll take that, right? Like it's not always, okay, I need, if I'm not getting the maximum amount of time on track, like it's not worth it, right? Like it's like, yeah, give me 3 clean laps and I'm good with it.
And that's an interesting part of our program, is you get a little bit of both. You have people that do want the value, so to speak. They want the laps for their money, right?
Yeah, understandable.
So there's those people, but then there's a couple other different aspects of, like, I drive and I run on street tires, and I know with my Yokohamas, anything past 2 laps is trash. If I don't get my fastest within those first 2 laps, the only thing that's left for me to do is kind of back it down a little bit and work on corners. Like attack a certain corner, work on the data, figure out how I need to fix that, and then come in. But there are also people that are running on tires that need a little bit more time to warm up. The CRSs need a little bit more time nowadays. If people are running unlimited and they're on the race tires, sometimes those need a lap or 2 to come in. So it's really finding that delicate balance of maximizing the ability to reduce the amount of cars on track by reducing the amount of time a session is, but also giving enough time that the people who have tires that need a little heat to work properly have enough time to get the heat put in as well. So that's kind of where I found that 15 minutes, especially for, a track the size of NCM, kind of hits that sweet spot. Gets you right about 4 laps, depending on how fast your car is. Should be plenty to get that fast time in and be ready to go for the next session.
So give us kind of an idea. Give us I'm going to put you right on the spot here. The fastest lap times at this track, what you're kind of expecting from the participants, and what classes are you seeing like the hardest competition levels in?
Oh, this year's going to be good. I'm really excited about this year. I don't know if we'll break 2 minutes with a production-based car, but we're getting really close. Last year, Steve Lucas set the new record for the track for any production car with that 203 point, what was it? 203.6?
That's that Serpent Stangs racing?
202.7. 202.7. Yeah, sorry. So Steve Lucas set out a 202.7 in a Mustang. It's I think a GT500 based time attack car. To give me an idea what kind of speed that is faster than Andy Pilgrim in a McLaren Senna. So that's
pretty wild.
It's
and Andy's got a couple laps around that track.
A few laps, and he's driven a few different cars and a few different race cars very quickly. So yeah, that's moving and shaking. And then this year, James Rauch ran a 203.8 in his Civic EK hatch.
I love that dichotomy. I love that, right? I mean, half a second, and you're talking about a V8 Mustang, big American power versus a lightweight Honda Civic. Like that to me is such time attack, right? Like that is such a great dichotomy.
And there are 2 different classes too. You got Unlimited 1, Unlimited 2. I can tell you, Steve was keeping an eye on that event. That happened in May, and I was talking to James, and he's like, "Yep, Steve's keeping in touch with me. He's trying to figure out where I'm at. He knows I'm coming for his time because I know James. He would love to get that overall time. And I'll tell you right now, that car doesn't have power steering. That car doesn't have. I don't think it has ABS. But it's a freaking cartoon. Watching that thing come over 10, 11, I'm like, who put that thing in fast forward? But it's a really cool car. But not only do we have Steve Luca in Unlimited 1 coming back to try to better his time, and he feels pretty confident that he could. I actually spoke to him last week, if I remember correctly. We have Mike DeSold's supposed to show up with that awesome 67 Camaro. Hopefully he can make it. I know he had a bit of a kerfuffle at Laguna.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping he'll show up. I haven't heard anything from him canceling his registration or anything like that. And if I remember correctly, they're a body shop. So I'm thinking they've got.
I saw their Instagram. They're hard at work, and they're literally making the new carbon fiber fenders as we speak. It sounded. I mean, based on just pictures that I saw, it looked like the fenders were coming together rather quickly and effectively. So
awesome. Yeah, I'm stoked that DeSold's going to be there. So that's another car to keep an eye on in Unlimited 1 to chase down that overall fastest time. But then we have entering the fray Mr. Peachy, making the jump from Max 1 into Unlimited land with some Hoosiers. I don't know if he's doing anything else to the car. I don't know. I know he was putting in the appropriate safety so he could run the Hoosiers, but I don't know if he's done anything performance-wise extra to that car. But when you look at his time from Max 1, he wasn't that far off. He was in that 204?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so...
And is that a 200 treadwear class? What treadwear?
He did that on Yokohama's. The 204 on Yokohama's. So he's going to bolt on some stickies. And like I said, I don't know if he's bringing anything else to the party, but that gentleman can drive the wheels off of a car. So I have no doubt that we're going to see not only Unlimited 1 and Unlimited 2 records fall, but I'm confident we're going to see the overall production car record fall again this year. The question is how hard is it going to fall? I'm stoked for that one. And then to steal the words out of your mouth, Mr. Kilgore, Max 1 is out of control. 23 entries. That one's going to be a fun one to watch. There's so many cars. We got Cody Hunt. You've got Terry Fair coming for the first time with his car. Now, and
Terry's a character and a half. Watch out for that guy.
Character. He's a character. Stan Whitney is driving the heaviest car in the world in Max 1 currently with that GT500. But the one that could be sneaky, and it's a lot of time he needs to drop, but Jackie Ding's going to come in. When he ran last year, he didn't have aero on the car. He had no aero. He had just got the car.
Stock turbos, stock
turbos, and they are not stock any longer.
No, they're not.
So I know Jackie's run with us for a while, and I know he doesn't come in halfway. He's going to put on a show the best of his ability. So I'm excited to see what he can do in Max 1. So that's going to be a fun one. Max 4 could be really interesting. Josh Owens has owned that record because he's kind of had the car for the class. The weights have been so low, and that's one of the reasons we're looking at changing some things up in Max for next year. We're increasing the minimum weights quite a bit because the weights were kind of based on some cars that, about 30 years old now and harder to get and harder to keep running. So we're raising the weights and kind of also bringing it in line a little bit more with GLTC weights and that kind of thing to make the crossover, like we talked about, a little bit easier. But Lyle Zyra is going to show up in Max 4 with his GR86, so considerably heavier car, but he was about 3 seconds off Josh's time when he was running it in tuner. So no aero. Had to run premium gas.
Definitely a chance there that he could be right in the back.
That's Lyle can drive. It's not. I'm not taking anything away from Josh. Josh can drive too, but it's going to be an interesting one to watch. I'm excited about that one because it's two different types of cars, two different weights, and it's kind of where we're going with Max, where I want to see a little bit more. We're going to have multiple weights within each Max category, depending on how the car is built a little bit to kind of improve that, the little bit of differences within, and make it a little easier for people to come in and compete within each Max category. So
I feel like that the GR6 is sort of the GR86, excuse me, is sort of like the new baby Supra. Like those things are way quicker than they really should be. You see people wheeling those things and you're like, man, those are quick times, quick times.
My significant other had a, so Autocross Land, or basically it's a Tuner 4 prepped BRZ second gen until the motor went. That's a thing that can
Subaru
happen.
things.
But that car, the first time I drove it, I'm like, there's no way this car's 228 horsepower from the factory. It's so underrated. The way I describe that car, because I've had a couple of different E36 M3s, I'm like, this is an E36 M3 with a Miata wheelbase. It is torquey, pulls, it is solid, but it has just a little bit more playfulness, kind of like a Miata. And I mean, once you start doing the coilovers and making the adjustments and throw the header on there and could put a tune on it, car just comes alive. And it is definitely one of those cars that is more than the sum of its parts by far.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
We just might happen to have another one now in our household that's slowly going to get built. This time it's a Toyota, but I don't know if that means anything different. So yeah, that exists. But and there's a few other classes in there that are just, I mean, you can look at all the different classes. There's going to be something fun to watch. Obviously, we have the new Club Spec cars coming in. So we got some people running there. We'll be interested to see how that all shakes out with the first.
Can you give us the 2-minute rundown of what that Club Spec Mustang is and what right? It's basically a spec class. There's some spec modifications.
Yeah.
What is that real quick?
So there's the Club Spec Mustang and then the Club Spec Miata, so CSM and CSX. And the whole idea there is we want to make it a car that you could do kind of all the things within SCCA, while also being very usable on the street. So Mustang, it's the SL197 with the 4.6 liter. So I mean, it's not a super powerful car, and it's not super inexpensive. You can you can go out there and you can find them left and right for under 10K.
Yes, you
But
can.
they're fun. I mean, if you like rowdy V8 noises and that kind of thing, they'll do that for you. But then we worked hard with Mustang tuner guys and got some common sense and easy to put in mods, just simple Coney shocks, lowering springs, sway bars, and some other things where everybody's doing the same thing. So the car is pretty spec. Everybody's running the same tire. We're on the Goodyear supercar threes, if I remember correctly, not the R's, just the threes. And so you can drive it to the track, you can drive it on the track, you can drive it home, you can take it autocrossing, you can do just about anything with a car, and just and people are having a ball with it. There's so many people that either were closet Mustang fans or realized that they were Mustang fans once they drove one, because we're seeing them built in droves. They've become really, really popular. Just because I think people didn't realize how fun they would be with some slight modifications. And then the other one is the NC Miata, so Club Spec Miata. And that one, the really cool thing about that one is the kit for that, or the spec for that, is a little bit more expensive. It's single adjustable Penske's for coilovers and then some other things. But the whole kit is built around the same exact type of things you would do to build a Spec MX-5 car for road racing. So this is a car that now you can autocross, then you can take time trialing, and then if you wanted to complete the build, you could then go take road racing within SCCA and other places under the Spec MX-5 banner. So that's a car where literally you could take from the parking lot to the runoffs if you so desired. So that one's really cool for that aspect, and that one's taken off as well. And it's another car that's super usable. You can keep it straightable with stock seats and that kind of thing, because you can still run the time trials with the factory rollover protection, but you got Penske coilovers and a bunch of other stuff to make the car handle better. Or you can throw the roll bar in there and do some race seats and everything. And it's a really, really fun car to drive as well. I've got the opportunity. I have not driven the Club Spec Mustang yet. I've driven a Club Spec Miata, and it was a really fun little package. I just drove it on the autocross course. We'll have the SCCA's car that we built at Time Trials Nationals, and I might be packing my driver's suit and my helmet, maybe.
Nice.
Tell Hoosier to ship that helmet to NCM.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So yeah, Club Spec is, and it's basically, it all kind of comes from the idea that with the Solo Spec coupe that we had for autocross, that we actually allowed to run within time trials as well, based on the first gen twin, which is same situation, same recipe. You got a spec kit of things that you can do when it comes to suspension and exhaust and that kind of stuff that makes the car just a little bit more fun, handle a little bit better, but yet still super usable as a daily driver. So you could have just one car and do it all. That's kind of the intent and the philosophy behind it. Of course, the Miata, I'm a weird person. I've had a Miata most of my life as my only car. Now I'm lucky enough to have a couple more. So yeah, I'm like, yeah, Miata, of course it's your only car. Why wouldn't it be?
Miata's the answer. That's what they say.
So yeah, that's the kind of idea behind Club Spec. And I don't think these will be the only two. I know we're talking about other ones where we want to let these kind of percolate and get some footing underneath them. But we've already, even when these came out, we already had the next couple that we were like, these should probably be the next ones we do if we're going to do more. So based off the success of these, we'll keep going.
Yeah. I mean, it does seem like that. I know many people who they really prefer the spec classes. They want to benchmark themselves against the other drivers. They want same car, everything be the same, and I want to see how I stack up against other drivers. And then on the flip side, and these are great classes for them, especially if you guys do some of the other cars, which I know are sort of in the mix of, you can have anywhere from a Mustang to a Miata, maybe some slightly higher end cars, depending on how wild you want to get. But then on the flip side, you also have the guys who they want to get the car that they have always loved and they want to modify it, right? And so this allows a sandbox for everybody to play in. So I think it's a great area. There's going to be someone there that you can race against and you can have a good time with.
And that's, I think, at some point, I think before we were on the podcast, one of you had asked kind of, why do we think we're seeing like, we get 190 people at our nationals, where that's the biggest time trial national or biggest time attack event in the country, potentially in the world. And I think it's all about the accessibility. That's the big thing that we've tried to build from, with our classing structure. We've got our sport class, which is, the easy entry, where the whole idea is you should be able to put everything on in your driveway with basic hand tools. So it's, simple shocks, lowering springs, sway bars, cat back exhaust, wheels and tires. You can upgrade brakes, pads, more than anything, obviously. So pretty simple stuff. And then tuners, where you get to play with things and add coilovers, and you can add some camber to the car and header and do it tune. Well, you can do a tune in sport too, but it's another story we'll talk about later. But you can do the tune, and it really lets you dial the car in the best it can be mechanically when it comes to mechanical grip and that kind of thing. And then max is where you get a little crazy, where the engine swaps exist and the aero exists, and you can kind of really push the edge of what a streetable car is, because we still want the cars to be streetable. And then unlimited is the all-out time attack. Let's go. How fast can we do a lap, and period, let alone just in this car. So I think there's a kind of a place to play for everybody, a place to enter for everybody. And I think that's what's really helped us is the classing structure, but then also how we run the event, where you don't have to be signed off as an advanced driver to do time attack. You can come in and you can have your very first time ever being on track. You can run a Time Trials National Tour. We'll coach you. We'll bring you along, and we'll make it fun. We'll make it happen. You're probably not going to win your class. Maybe you will. I don't know. But the idea is we want to make sure that it's accessible for anybody. If you want to come play, come play. We're here to make that dream of yours happen, and we're going to do it the best that we can to make sure it's safe and fun for you while you're here. So,
hey, John, I just want to touch real quickly, because I really enjoyed this page here. Okay, so what we're looking at here is, trying to figure out what class you're going to be able to run your car in. I think you guys did a really good job on this particular page of making it really accessible to look through the categories of sport, tuner, max, unlimited, and then it breaks it even down into the sport 1, sport 2. It gives you all this good information, and it's very accessible, very easily, readable, legible, whatever you want to call it. I really enjoyed the fact that you're able to just look through it and basically pick out what class you want to run in, or what class your car would currently be classed within, very easily. So I just want to give you guys real big kudos on that. I thought that was a really cool way to go about doing that, where it's not just like a PDF file and say, read it and go for it. It's a very more interactive and selectable. So really good job on your guys' team there to get that in a suitable way where you can actually kind of work through it versus, hey, read everything under the sun and then come back to me and tell me what class you're in.
Right. And yeah, JK and Hayward was involved with this too, obviously. Did a great job on getting that all as a thought process and as a philosophy of, we want to make sure that when you show up on the webpage and you're like, okay, where does my car land? And you can pick each level, sport, tuner, max, unlimited, and do a quick digest of, okay, these are the typical mods that are allowed within this. And it makes it easier to go, oh, okay, well, then, yeah, I think I'll be in tuner now. Where does my car land in tuner? And then you can go searching for that. So I appreciate that. Yeah, it's our goal is always to make it as easy as possible. I don't know if we always succeed, but we try really hard. And it is a little bit of a break from some of the other sides of our club, where, yeah, you got the rule book and you got to read through and try to find it. And some prefer one way, some prefer the other. But that's the interesting thing is, if you look through there, we actually still have a page that or a spot that you can click and get the PDF if you want to search the whole thing. Well, it's not a PDF; it's a page. We should make it a PDF so it's searchable. That's something we need to work on. But we're also
got to be able to find those loopholes, baby.
No, no, that's the other thing is I like our program to exist in the gray, not have to be hard edged black and white. I like some interpretation to some extent. Gotta be careful with that, of course, but um, common sense should rule the day. That's the big thing for us.
You can check that out at timetrials.scca.com, I believe it is. That's where you can find any information. It is a very good interactive website, and that is saying something, especially when I think back to as I was getting into time attack. So I was in the Southeast Division, where there was a fair amount of time attack, time trials going on in the early 2010s, but the rules, the cars that were eligible included every car from the GCR. And there are probably not many people, if I say GCR, unless you're an SCCA person, you don't really know what that means. Yeah, the general competition rules. But that's basically club racing classes. So basically you could take a club racing car and run it in time trials. But then you also had select solo classes that you could run in. And then you also had division-specific classes that were made up specifically for that. And oftentimes one car may fit in multiple classes. And so it was so difficult to really try and figure out. And to your point, which I think you said this earlier, John, right? Like that makes it difficult for people that makes it difficult for people to get involved. If they can't even figure out like where their class is, like they're like, you can, you're killing them before they even want to start, right? Like it's just, you're making it so difficult. You're killing the amount of time they're trying to figure out. Instead of enjoying the car, they're reading a PDF trying to figure out where my car goes, right? So as Jager said, I also agree. You guys have done a great job in terms of making it accessible and getting people involved. And I think that is a major reason why you see 190 plus, 200 plus entrants into a single event. And so, people have their complaints. SCCA has too many classes. Well, that may be so, but they're also pulling 200 plus people to an event. And everybody has a particular reason that they do things, and I think the SCCA has found a very good way of doing it, and so you guys are killing it. And let's send NCM off with a big hurrah, 200 plus entrants. If you haven't signed up, do it.
Do it.
Yeah, man.
Spoiler alert: if you were to ask me what the best time attack track in the country is, even though we're not going to be running there next year, as a driver, I think NCM is it.
That's interesting.
I don't know if there's a track that is more challenging, and in the fact that it really, I mean, you have to be mentally ready to attack it, and it's balanced for the cars. There's a little bit of everything for everybody at that track, and so it's a really, really fun track. It's, as an autocrosser, I usually pick up on a track very quickly. I can go out there and I can find the line. I can get up to speed pretty quickly because it's just from autocrossing year over year over year. NCM's the first track I ever went to when I got done with the first session, and I autocrosser excuse, it was foggy and blah 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 blah. But I came off after that first session, and it was the first time I could think of where I went to a track and I went, I don't know if I know exactly where it goes yet.
Oh,
and
man.
that had never happened to me before, and it hasn't happened to me since. So for that reason, I think that's one of the reasons I think it's one of the best ones. Is it's an overall challenge, for everything. And like pit race, where we're going next year, is also a challenge, but it's a little easier to digest. I think the first time there's going to be a little bit more speed, so there's going to be a little bit more power involved. The facilities are amazing, though. Obviously, both tracks have amazing facilities, but we're excited. We're excited to go to pit race next year. It's going to open some opportunities for us to make TTN even a little bit bigger and badder. Not necessarily in participant number wise, maybe in that way, but in the overall event, some of the things that we're going to bring in the event, people are going to want to be there for that. It's going to be fun.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
Well, I will echo John's comments that I think NCM is one of the best tracks. And to your point, so it's 3.1 miles, 23 turns, there are a lot of ways to mess up a lap. And if you get a lap right, it is very rewarding. And it is also one of the few laps, or it's one of the few tracks where, I mean, it's got fairly long straightaways. It's got high-speed corners. It's got low-speed corners. It's got just enough elevation change to where it makes it fun, as well as some challenges in terms of off camber, on camber, falling down, catching a hill, going back up, right? Like it adds those sort of challenges there. But it is also, and I've had it happen to me, and I know that other people have had it happen to them, where it is one of the few tracks where it will overwork a power steering pump in a heartbeat. And I think it is one because the track is always sort of moving. And you also have a couple of braking zones that you need to brake while also turning. And so you can load up the front tires quite a bit, especially going into things like turn 10 is really the big one there, where you're kind of coming around and it's this radius turn into a very tight hairpin. And so I've had multiple times where it hasn't happened at any other track, but in my old BMW, it would overheat the power steering. And I've seen other people where they're like, they come off track and it's like, yeah, my power steering like is overflowing. And it's like, yeah, dude, it happens. Get you a sweatband and some zip ties and put it around your power steering pump. But it's a fantastic track. Great track.
Yeah.
So John, question for you.
Fast car. It's a challenge.
Yeah. So question for you. How does someone tune in and really like watch and keep tabs on all the fast drivers and what the action is going on at this event?
So yeah, we will have an live audio stream at Time Trials National, or timetrials.scca.com website you just talked about. Whenever we have a Time Trial National Tour, Time Trials Nationals, the weekend that we go live, if you open up the website, right there at the top, it'll have the event. You just click on the event, and then you'll have all the information you need to watch how the results are going down. And then we'll also have the audio broadcast there as well. So all
awesome,
audio,
man.
and then at home you can watch the results as they happen real time too. But
is there any future plans to make it more live stream viewer friendly?
God, I want to. We were looking at some options, but as we talked about, I've played in the production world, and I have an idea of how much it costs. And it is not inexpensive to do it right. And that's the thing is, we could. There's a way we could do an audio stream right now, and we can get it done. We could have a few cameras set up, and they wouldn't pan, but they would show the track and that kind of thing. And first time we want to do one, we want to do it right. If we're going to do it, we want to do it right. So we're still working towards that. We'll see how next couple of years go. We've got some ideas for next year that the events are they're gonna morph a little bit again. They're gonna be a little bit bigger and a little bit bolder with some of the things we're doing. So keep tabs on that. We've got the Facebook page and obviously a Time Trials page, but we'll make some announcements about what the tour will look like next year. And it's going to change a little bit. It's going to be the same old thing that everybody's used to when it comes to Time Trial land, but we're going to add some things that I'm really excited about. I think everybody else is going to get really excited about them too, where it's going to bring more people in. It's going to give people option to drive even more laps, maybe even more tracks within one weekend.
Interesting.
So I would say stay tuned for more.
I mean, I'd be pretty interested to hear if you're going to end up in Southern California, but I'll just keep tabs into the website.
I'll say this, Mark. I hope we see you in Vegas in February.
Okay.
We'll be back there this year, working with the region right now. We're just trying to lock in the date for sure with the track. So we'll be there again, and that's a track that I didn't know what to expect from it. It's the outside track at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, and it looks pretty flat. It doesn't look like it'd be that much. But I was there with some of our regulars, and when you have a guy that gets off track with his first gen twin, and another guy that gets off track in his GT350, and they're both like, "This track is awesome." You're like,
"Oh, wow.
Okay." And so I had my helmet with me, and I hopped in the car real quick, did a couple acts, and I was like, this track is pretty awesome. It's pretty fun. And so, yeah, I think we had somewhere around 90 cars total for the event last year, between time trials and track day. Would love to see more cars, love to see some faster cars. Not saying anything bad about the people who came already. I'm just saying some more unlimited cars
Hey.
and that kind of
We
stuff.
always want
I know
faster
they
cars.
exist in California. That's all I'm saying.
They do. We're afraid to travel a little bit here in California.
You know, it's not
They're
that
spoiled.
far.
That's the problem. They're spoiled. It's like they throw a rock and they can go to a track.
You're not lying.
I mean, if you ever come to Willow Springs, I live 5 minutes away. I live in the town.
And that's the thing is we've been to the West Coast a few times. We've come to the Ridge a couple times, and we've been to Buttonwillow with GTA. We've been to Thunder Hill. We love Matt Busby. Obviously used to manage NTM. Now he's at Thunder Hill. I want to bring the tour out west. I want to. Our problem is we don't have the customer base just yet. When we show up, we just don't get enough people to pay for the event. Vegas is there already. Vegas has that. And so that's my hope, is that becomes kind of our foothold. We get some people from California to come over and experience our event and go, okay, yeah, this is a good time. They put a good party on, so that we can then look to go to California or somewhere further west in 2026. So trust me, I have all the desire. I definitely want to get it done. I'd love to come bring the tour back to the Ridge. That's another one of those tracks I would say is one of the great time attack tracks. I got myself down to 153 in a Miata. My goal is to hit the 150 mark at some point. That's going to take some arrow, I think.
I did like a 6 minute in a Mazda CX-5.
Yeah.
In rain. It was raining.
Right.
It was right. Yeah. It's rain, racer excuses. Yeah.
But the Ridge is a fun track.
Is it? I mean, when I look at it on the map, it seems like the Ridge is sort of in the middle of nowhere, as is usually the case with racetracks. Like, is it a little difficult to get to, or is it not as bad as you might think?
Okay, so I mean, if gonna go all into it, like, I'm from Omaha, Nebraska originally. For me, driving 2.5, 3 hours to get somewhere is nothing. That's just normal. So the Ridge from where I'm at in the Seattle area is like an hour and a half. So to me, it's like, it's not a big deal. It's in Shelton, Washington, which is a smaller town. There's not a lot of hotel options trees or anything like that. But yeah, there's a lot of trees everywhere up here, which is awesome. That's one of the things I love about it. But
see, I told you, these guys love the place because just trees
and mountains and water. And if you like being outdoors, I'm an outdoor guy. I like hiking and yeah. But I tell you what, it is a fun track to drive. It's a challenging track to drive, and it's a pretty area to be in. I mean, it's just some of the best pictures. You get an event going later at night, and the sun's starting to set. You get the golden hour situation, and there's just
yeah.
It's a great place to be. It's fun.
Agreed.
And there's no dust when you go off like a Buttonwillow.
Yeah, it kind of stays with you for the rest of your life. That car,
the rest of your life.
That car will forever have Buttonwillow dust in. I was trying to get Kilgore to leave his BMW in California after Laguna and just leave it here. He could fly back. We could go to Buttonwillow, and then he could go try out the Buttonwillow dust, see how it tastes in his teeth. But right. He had to bring his car back for some reason.
Yeah. Listen, I've got to vindicate myself. I ended up 4th last year at TT Nationals in T2. I got to get that podium. I got to keep the streak alive. 3rd place, Laguna. 3rd place, TT Nats. That's the goal.
You aim higher, sir.
Yeah,
if you only aim for 3rd place, that's as high as you're going to get. Right. You got to aim for the moon. I mean,
listen,
come on.
Mark Sarasevich and Nick Hendricks. They've got the Corvette. Those Corvettes are my nemesis.
They're everybody's nemesis, but you sure need to believe in yourself. You can do it.
Right. You're right.
That's a good coach for you, man. That's a good coach.
Believe. Yep.
Yeah.
All right, John. It's been an awesome time talking with you about SCCA Time Trials Nationals that are coming up. We're all excited to see them. coming up here really soon. Probably, what, we get dropped this Thursday?
Yep.
We're going to be dropping this
it'll be
Thursday,
Thursday.
which it'll be the day that it all starts and starts kicking off.
Or no. Sorry. It'll be a week. It'll be a week before the event kicks off. So
okay. So we got some time.
Yeah. Are you guys traveling? Pop the podcast on while you're driving to NCM. Listen. Get hyped up. It'll be fun.
And you can mock me mercilessly once you get there.
All right, Kilgore, send us out. Give us some last little details. And again, John, I'll say, a big thank you for coming on the show. Hugely appreciate it. Love talking to anybody about time trials, time attack, and you've been absolutely great for the entire time.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me here.
Yes, thank you, John. We will be sure we'll bring you back at the beginning of next year once you guys have some more information about 2025 TT Nationals, 2025 TT National Tour. Everything that's going on, we're looking forward to it. Yes, I will be there at TT Nationals next
what dates?
Or in 2 weeks. It is October 24th through the 27th.
Yep.
And so that's going to be in NCM Motorsports Park, Bowling Green, Kentucky. I will tell you this. If you are ever in that area, the Corvette Museum is fantastic. If you ever have a chance, if you ever have a chance, go by, and then across the interstate is where the actual track is. You definitely, and then I think, and then a little bit further down the road is where the actual Corvette factory is, I think, and you can do tours. I think you have to sign up and all that kind of stuff, but it is a great area. So if you're ever around that Bowling Green, Kentucky area, it's about 45 minutes, an hour from Nashville. So it is the closest track for me. So I'm looking forward to it. I have to vindicate myself from last year. As I said, I'm shooting for first place. Here we come.
There it is.
Mark Sarcevich, I'm coming for you. Corvette's
there we
nothing.
Go.
The M4's coming for you, so it'll be a good time. And of course, once we get back, we will give you guys the breakdown on one of the future podcast episodes. We still need to break down my time at Laguna. We're also talking about maybe having someone else on there who does Subaru things, so we'll see if we can get him on, see how his weekend went. It was a great time. So hope you guys have enjoyed it. YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. That's where you guys can find us. Hit us up on the Instagram. Hope you guys are enjoying it.
All right, guys. Catch y'all later.